Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Datu Chronicles. I'm your host, Datu Tim. And this is going to be a solo series. So I hope everyone's doing well. I'm trying a new thing. I'm trying to be on Instagram at the same time. I don't know how well that's going to go. We're going to have to find out here. I'm going over there right now to see if it works. I can't tell if it's live or not. It may or may not be live. Who knows? Who knows? You are live. Okay, good. That's what I need to know. Okay. So anyways, these are the Datu Chronicles. So what is that all about? Okay, let me get everything going up here. So as of late, there's been a lot of I've been doing martial arts for a long time. And I started Modern Arnis in 1985. So I'm slowly approaching my 40 years in the art. And a lot of my career was when Professor Presas was alive, before social media existed. I just want to give people a quick idea of some things. So we had a thing. I did a video or a series called okay, where is it? Okay. So this is why we're doing this series. So there's a lot of information out there about me, but people don't know where to look. And there's been a lot of things being said. But at the time of Professor passing, only 28% of the people had. Hold on, I'll go back to that in a minute. 28% of the people had cell phones, and then cell phones with internet started in 2001. 2004 is when Facebook started. 2005 is when YouTube started. Instagram in 2010. So I'm reading this here. So there's been a lot of talk about me as of late, and I'm getting the information. And a lot of my people have been having to correct others. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and it's either it's a combination of people not knowing what they're talking about. They're just repeating what they're hearing, or in some cases misinformation where people are intentionally changing the facts of things. So I'm doing a short series, or I'm doing a series talking about different parts of my martial art career. And these are going to be shorts, 10 to 15 minutes long. That's the goal. Hopefully I can stay point on this. Now, this is the inaugural episode. I'm not going to be doing much of the comments here. So Invisible Ghost is doing a theme, and he's doing a little song basically that I'm supposed to be singing to the Beverly Hills Cop theme. Talis from Brazil says hello. How you doing, sir? So like I said, this is the first time I'm doing this. It's meant so people can source this information. Hey, how you doing, my good friend Terrell? We taught recently down in the DC area. So I've got a bunch of things we're going to be talking about over time. And let me just give you a quick summary of some of the topics that we're going to hit. And then not today. Posts and projects. Okay, here we go. All right, I'll pull this up. So some of the things we're going to be talking about topic-wise is today's how I started. Another one, the titles that I've had, Guru, Protege, Can-Am Director, stuff of that name. So me as a competitor, me working in the tactical field, working in the theatrical field, full-time Modern Arnis school, my career as a teacher, seminars before and after professors passing, as far as me teaching. Was I kicked out of the IMF? Am I really hated by the community? Or maybe I'm an ambassador. But we'll talk about a whole bunch of different topics I'll be doing. Like I said, we're going to keep it in short format, you know. So, and there we go. Oh, an invisible ghost. Okay. He's got some things to say. Whatever. Matt Jones. How are you doing? So I got to see what certain things are. I don't know if is invisible ghost. Are you rodent? And I'm just reading this wrong, or are you somebody completely different? Okay, 21 years ago. All right. Is that a good meeting? A bad meeting? I don't know. All right. So, let me just do. Okay. So here's the deal. A lot of different questions on comments about how I started. So I want to go into that today. Okay. Well, okay. I even know what you're talking about. Okay. I don't know if. I don't know. Okay. So I'll go back to this later. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Okay. Maybe that'll correct that. Okay. So I want to talk about how I got involved with Modern Arnis. So now I'm back on point. I'm sorry for that little distraction. I don't even know what to take that as. So it was 1985. I was planning on. Well, actually, I started as a kid. My dad and I used to watch all the violent shows back in 67 ish. So I was 2 years old. I thought that's how kids played, watching all these movies. And I used to slap all the other 2-year-olds around. You don't have to be a tough guy with a bunch of 2-year-olds. My dad had to give me a little correction there. That's just how we played because that's what I saw on television. And that continued when I got older. All of our friends used to, we used to wrestle and play army or superheroes and stuff like that. Batman and Robin was pretty popular. So we'd, be all the superheroes and supervillains. And we did it physically. We didn't do it virtually because we didn't have video games back then. Matt Jones, actually, that's what I'm talking about right now. Actually, I was a martial artist prior to becoming a martial artist. And so I would do a lot of roughhousing and stuff. We did wrestling in school, and I continued doing it. Actually, when I went to school, wrestling was actually still part of the curriculum. Now, evidently, you have to be on the team to learn how to wrestle. And a lot of my friends were wrestlers. We'd all wrestle together. Now, I wasn't at their skill level. There's no question about that. They were committed to the craft, but I am competent on the ground in realistic scenarios. So we would box and stuff like that in our backyard. Someone had boxing gloves, so we used to play fight, And then I decided, it was beyond my means as a child to get into martial arts. So I graduated from high school in 1983. In 1980, I went to the high school, and that's when I met a good friend of mine, Jeff Leader. He and a bunch of other guys were all different martial arts for different programs, and they'd all get together and we used to do stuff. Now, Jeff was also one of those wrestlers. So we would smack each other around. I had street experience. They had more the martial academic experience, and it was a good fit. And they were constantly encouraging me. You need to get into legitimate training. They saw that I had the aptitude. I just needed more formal training. So I decided, I was in the workforce. I'd been training with a whole bunch of martial arts the whole time. But in 1985, I said, that's it. I'm going to do this. It was late 85. I planned that in 86, I was going to go to Bill Adams Martial Arts was the place I was going to go as my backup. This was the first commercial school in the area. Had great seminars. A bunch of my friends were training there. Guy knew his stuff, Rich knew karate. But I was looking around, and I was looking at the kung fu. I was looking at this, looking at that. I was a big Bruce Lee fan, like a lot of us were back then. And then finally, I was just about to activate the backup plan. And I got a phone call from an acquaintance of mine and said, "Hey, Tim, got to check this place out." And it was called the Filipino Karate Academy. So I walked in there. John Bryant was the owner. And I found out later that Remy Presas was the silent partner in that, or one of the backers, I should say. So I started the first class, put a stick in my hand. I'm like, this is it. I'm sold. And when I walked in there, I had a vibe like, wow, why is this so familiar? Well, my first black belt magazine was the yearbook where Professor Presas was the instructor of the year. So there's pictures of him all over the wall. So I was like, they're really familiar, but I didn't put two and two together until later. This guy, the professor, comes walking in. And when I met him, I'm like, oh, you're the guy from the magazine. So 1986, I go to the Mississippi summer camp with John Bryant. I said, I'm a student there. I go to the Mississippi summer camp. And because of my commitment to the art, I performed better than most of the people there from the other system. So Modern Arnis as a whole, you'd go to a training camp, and this was geared for black belts and other systems, at least back then. And it was about getting them on the program. So a lot of people did the Art Within Your Art program. Well, John Bryant was the second full-time Modern Arnis school of the three that I knew in history. Rocky Paswick was the first one out of Detroit. John was the second one, and I end up having the third one. So when we went down there, all the people who attended the event were doing other systems. But when I was invited down, it was John Bryant, two of my classmates, Dave Smith, and Tammy Wilson. So the four of us took a van down to Mississippi from Buffalo, which is a long, long trip. And then from there, I passed the instructor course. And obviously my classmates and I all did well because we were in a full-time Modern Arnis program where the others were maintaining another system first. So they had other martial DNA on there, but based on how well I performed, I passed my instructor's program course. So I was Guru Tim, came back and, like I said, I continued my training. Let me see here. I'm going to look at this one. How did you really know which layer of Modern Arnis to choose? There wasn't multiple layers. There's just one system being taught at the time. I just was lucky to get with a guy who did it as a full-time system. So after that time, I came back from the camp. I was an instructor. So right away, I was put in a role of teaching at the school. And hello, Mr. Wolf. So, and how's my sound, everybody? I forgot. I've got a new computer, and I didn't do all of I'm slowly but surely working the stuff over. Yeah, there we go. Getting things going and the proper settings. But, let me know what you think about the audio there. So I come back. I'm a basic instructor, which for all intents and purposes means I'm an apprentice instructor, but but you would have been a black belt in another system. So, like I said, I did fairly well. And John Bryant at the Filipino Karate Academy had me start teaching right away. So, okay, good. I'm glad the audio is good. So So I would teach all the kids' classes, all the beginner adult classes. I'd be there Saturday teaching. I ran the demo team. I would do extra stuff. Ron Merson and I were training. He was one of my friends that I brought in the club with me. And he and I would, we actually went in. We renovated a room that he had, tore it all down, all the stuff out, and brought our weights in there and had a fitness area. So he was in high school, so I'd pick him up from high school. We would drive in. We would lift together, and then we would train. He was there 2 nights a week. I was there 4 nights a week, and then we both did Saturdays when we could. His schedule was a little less than mine. I had keys to the place. I would open up for John, stuff of that nature. Then in 87, John and I had a little difference of opinions. So there's a couple things that were going on. Let's see. Let me see here. About 86 or... Okay, I started teaching in 1986 because I had passed the instructor test, but I was not a black belt until I was supposed to test for my black belt in 1987. And then eventually I got promoted in 1988. I'll get into that in a minute here. The audio is fine. We can see you. Good. I'm glad, Ghost. So John and I talked about some things were going on, and he had some religious beliefs and talked about spirits and ghosts in the place, which I really had no problem with. It didn't bug me. Whatever. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. Problem is, he was talking to minors on this, and that was one of the issues. And I want to speak ill of the dead. He's no longer with us, and I want to be right up front. If it wasn't for John, if I hadn't met John, I probably wouldn't have met Remy and gone from there. So John and I had a sit down talk about some stuff. He goes, well, listen, I know you've been wanting to get back in the teaching mode or the training mode. I go, and I was doing all that work, and I was not getting the training I was supposed to get. So, a lot of times they'll tell you, hey, listen, I won't charge you if you teach. Fine. Okay. I was teaching and I wasn't getting training. I ran the demo team. I did all these things. And the quantity of classes that I taught versus the quantity that I received were disproportional. So he had made some comments. So listen, and it boiled down to he was getting a little insecure and things. Talking about, well, he'd say people would ask for guru and they realized they were talking about me and not him. So listen, we'll put you down in the student role so you get your training. Oh, great. I want to do more of that. Then you can't be capped to the demo team anymore because it needs to be an instructor. And I'm like, okay, I don't know who's going to, I didn't say this, but I don't know who was going to run it because I was the only one who was doing it. It was myself, and then John would show up when he did, and then it would be myself again. And talk about all these things, then talk about how, my tuition program would go back into that, and then other things. And he goes, hey, do you got any questions? I go, well, yeah. And I said, I have a problem with paying tuition when I did all this work and you never paid me for my time. Yeah, paying me for my time would be teaching me, Like I said, it was disproportionate. I was teaching all the kids' classes. I was teaching all the beginner classes, short of being sick. I would do the demo team stuff. I do the Saturday classes. Like I said, I had my own keys. I can come and go as please. I keep the place open when he left town to go to other training camps and stuff like that. So, and it wasn't an ugly conversation. I just sat there and said, hey, listen, I tell you what, we got this demo I hooked up down in the one mall. Let's do this. Let's do the demo, and then we'll take a month off, and then we'll both sides will think about this, and then we can sit down and talk afterwards. So fine, let's do that. I never went back. Talked to some people, And actually, the fun of it, I talked to Bill Adams, with the guy who was going to go, and I used to do a lot of video work for him. I had a camcorder, so I'd video a lot of the seminars, and I say, hey, listen, yeah, I'm not with John anymore. What do you think about doing? Well, I'm thinking about doing some kung fu. And I was thinking about doing a bunch of other arts, And he goes, and he pulls out a key, puts it in front of me, and go, here's the keys to my Blaze Nut Club. Get in there after hours or before hours, and get your damn black belt. I'm like, it was the best thing I ever taught. So I had a few people come with me. We continued, and that was it. Now, in the meantime, Professor Presas heard that I had left John. Now, there's some people that are making some comments. And the comment was that, okay, so allegedly the person that brought Modern Arnis to Buffalo was a man named Don Zangi. John Bryant was a student of Don Zangi's. Now, they had a split, and allegedly it was not good, to the point where John may have tried to recruit people unethically. I don't know. These are the rumors that were floating around. Now, why am I talking about these rumors? Well, because the comment was that Remy supported John behind Don's back, and now he's doing it again with me. And that was not the case. I had quit. I had no idea what kind of connection I was going to get with Modern Arnis anymore. When Bill Adams gave me the keys, I had no clue on how I was going to continue my training. Then I get a phone call. The phone call was from Remy Presas. And Professor said to me, Tim, do you want to continue training? And I go, I do, but who's going to teach me? And we went back and forth on this, and finally goes, I will be your teacher. So, and how you doing, Eric? Cool. So, I don't know. I really had no clue at that time when I left what I was going to do. Professor didn't go behind anyone's back to solicit me to open up a school or anything. I already left, and I had already decided that I was going to continue my training in martial arts. I wanted to continue my modern, but I had no idea. I said, John was my teacher. I will say, from all the seminars and camps I attended, and considering the percentage of classes he taught after I became a basic instructor, I probably got just as many classes from Remy after that point as I did with John. I mean, like I said, leading up to my first, to the 86 summer camp in Mississippi, I was there 4 days a week, and he was my teacher. We trained extra afterwards. And then once I became that teaching role, he was very absent. And I'd see Professor. He'd come into Buffalo a bunch of times a year. I get to see and train with him there. And when you put up mat time, it was probably similar. I probably still did more hours with John, but when you throw the training camp in there, it throws things out of whack, on a regular basis. But you do the yearly camp, that's like 25 hours, or if not more. That's a minimum of 25 hours, and classes were an hour a week back then. So, that's, if you think 25 hours, that's 10 and a half weeks of training, 2 days a week. That's a lot of stuff that I was not getting from John. Plus, like the seminars and stuff of that nature. So, but what happened is, bottom line, I left. Obviously, Remy had a conversation with John, and lo and behold, Remy didn't want to lose me. And the phone number he would have gotten, my phone number, the only way he would have gotten it is if John would have gave it to him, because he didn't have the access to the records, the day-to-day records. So, but like I said, there was a rumor floating around that Remy went behind my back, or went behind John's back to get me to open up a program. It's like, no, I had left. I was gone. Now, once again, I don't know if John did that with Don or not, but that wasn't the case with me. There was nothing. It's just that Remy saw a talent. He wanted to keep me in the art, and he reached out to me directly. Let me see here. Let's see what this is here. Are you allowed to talk about your black belt test itself, Were you under a code of silence in case and Jam Dominic? So there's black. That's news to me. Our black belt tests were public. People could. So now listen. I will say this: when I do my Kuntao and my Sikran test, and we'll talk about that. I'm really not supposed to talk about that, or at the time we weren't allowed, and I think that was so we didn't prep the next people giving it away. It wasn't a secret, but it was kept on the QT, which I'm going to be talking about that one of our upcoming episodes. But that's it. So I started watching television at 2 years old. My dad, I thought fighting is how people played. I got as the first year of Generation X, we played doing fights and stuff like that. $6 Million Man and Batman and Robin and all the other shows that were out there. Continued that kind of activity, wrestling, backyard boxing, stuff of that nature. Got into high school, met a bunch of martial art friends, and then found the Filipino Karate Academy. And I started with John Bryant. I was there a little over a year. John and I went in separate directions, and we were amicable about it. I had there was the friendly rivalry because I wanted to outdo him. Funny thing was, he looked old as dirt. I hate to say it. He looked old, like he had lived a tough life. He was a year younger than me. So I started with him when I was 20. Let me see here. 19 turning 20. It was and he was actually younger than me, but he looked, and you can find John in the 5th or 6th of the original videos. Hey, Chris, I'm about to wrap things up here. So, but that was the whole thing that, I started with John. I left John because we had problems. And then Remy reached out to me directly and said, if I wanted to continue the training, I'd go with him. So that's it. That wraps up this, and that wraps up the topic of the episode. But I want to go over one real quick. What the upcoming episodes are going to be. These are going to be short, so the whole idea is to make this short episodes that people can watch in small bite-sized pieces. I want less of an intro the next time because this was the inaugural one. So we already did how I started. We're talking about the titles that I had received over the years. Competing in sport martial arts under the banner of Modern Arnis. My run in the tactical world, as well as the theatrical world, so working with law enforcement and working in the movie entertainment industry. Talking about as a full-time school, talking to me is about a teacher, goal, stuff of that nature. Seminars that I did before professors passing and after. Me as an ambassador in martial arts, which ties into the next other two topics of how I got kicked out of the IMAF, if that's actually what happened, and am I the most hated man in the community, or is it just a couple people? Hey, Kim, how you doing, sir? So that's it. That's the first episode of the Datu Chronicles, and I did something with Instagram. We'll see how well that works out today too. So listen, if you have any questions and other topics, put them in the comment thing so I can do possible short episodes on this. FMA Talk will resume in the new year. These I might be doing 2 episodes a week just to get the topics out and to keep them small so I don't go too crazy. So do me a favor if you're watching this. If you haven't already, please, if you can subscribe to the channel, like the video, and feel free to share this wherever you think is appropriate. Okay, Scott Howard, when did Remy officially implement the forms? What was the first? Okay, so this will be the only thing I'm going to answer today, and that's actually a lot of this is for FMA Talk, or this is the Datu Chronicles. The forms were implemented in the Philippines. They only did the stick. They were only taught the stick forms. The rest, the 4 stick forms were developed for the Philippines. The rest of them were developed in the States. So I don't know of any of the Filipinos who have the open hand forms. That was just a U.S. thing, or that's what was implemented. I don't know of the Germans. Gabrielle Roloff would probably have the open hand forms. I know Dieter wouldn't do that. It's not something they do. And I don't think he even does the stick forms either, but you'll have to talk to him about that. Okay. Boom. Thanks for the Datu for sharing it. Yep. So listen, I said I'll have I might do another episode Wednesday night, Wednesday or Thursday. Depends on when I get out of class. Probably Thursday night, get out of class. I don't want the holidays. The whole idea is these are shorts that people can watch at any time. So this has been a little over 30 minutes. This is longer than I wanted. I'm going to keep the topics more specific. And like I said, this was the inaugural one. So, of course, it's going to be a little more than others. So, listen, with no further ado, everybody, especially during these holidays, please stay safe and stay sane. And I will see you all soon.